The Young and the Restless scoop for Tuesday, November 25th, reveals Nick Newman will pin Matt Clark to the wall. Also coming up, Sharon Newman doesn't trust Detective Burrows. Plus, Victor Newman will share bad news with Adam Newman, and Harrison Abbott will put the pressure on Claire Newman. Spoilers tease, Kyle Abbott will run into Claire at Crimson Lights. They'll chit-chat a little, and she'll tell Kyle to wish his family a happy Thanksgiving. However, Kyle will suggest she tell them herself. Why don't you drop by? Claire will tell him she will stop by, but only for a half hour or so. At the ranch, Adam will show up to discuss next steps against Billy Abbott with Victor. Is everything ready to keep the Abbott Communications launch from taking off? He'll ask his father. Victor will say he spoke to Jill Abbott and offered her way above market value. However, she claimed she has no stake in the company. Adam will say he has proof she does. He'll suggest maybe Jill just has a lot of faith in Sally Spectra. I guess you're going to have to hold off on your attack on Jabot, he'll add. Victor will say he still wants to go ahead, and as Adam starts to reply, Nikki Newman, Victoria Newman, and Chelsea Newman will walk in. Victoria will say she hopes it's okay that she invited Nate Hastings over for cocktails after dinner. Nikki will say of course, but Victor will be confused. Since when have you grown close to that guy? He'll ask. Victoria will say Nate has helped her through her grief, and she hopes he'll at least be cordial. Then Claire will show up and say she's heading to the Abbotts for a little while. Nikki will say they have way too much food and ask her to bring over a pumpkin pie. Meanwhile, Sally will get a little miffed when she and Billy wait for a pumpkin pie Jack Abbott ordered from Society. She'll say she made one herself for dessert, but Billy will tell her you can never have enough. Sally and Billy will show up at the Abbott estate and will be greeted by Diane Jenkins and Tracy Abbott. Things will get a little awkward when Billy and Sally each hand the ladies a pie. Kyle will arrive a little later, and Harrison will rush downstairs to hug his father. Claire will show up with the pie, and Diane will quip to Tracy that apparently pumpkin pie is the new fruitcake. Claire will tell Harrison she's only staying for a little while, but he'll beg her to have dinner with them. So, what will she decide to do? In LA, Sharon and Nick will end up outside what looks like an abandoned building. She'll flash back to when Nick showed up at her hotel room, flipped out, and immediately pushed Matt Clark against the wall, his hands around the villain's neck. "Nick! Stop!" Sharon shouted. "We need him to tell us where Noah is." After he regained his composure, Matt chuckled and told Nick that Noah Newman and Sienna Bacall were perfectly safe. "This is my game. I call all the shots. I make all the rules," he added. Matt suggested Nick better get with the program if he ever wants to see his son again, and handed him a small bag of fentanyl. He told him he could use it as a bargaining chip to help find Noah. Matt then gave Nick an address on a piece of paper, said it's a rough neighborhood, and took off. Finally, back at the abandoned building, Nick will tell Sharon he just found something. It'll be the same kind of bag that contained the fentanyl Matt gave him. They'll worry that Matt drugged Noah with it. Then Detective Burrows and Detective Annie Stewart will show up. Nick will ask if they're going to help them find Noah. They'll say of course they are. Nick will head inside the building with Detective Stewart, and Sharon will ask Burrows if he really wants to help them find Noah and if they can trust him. "Why can't I shake this feeling that you're hiding something?" she'll ask him. Keep reading the Soap Scoop for Young and the Restless spoilers and news. And make sure to also join our Y&R Facebook group or leave us a reply in our comments section. But if you miss an episode, don't fret. You can watch The Young and the Restless online at cbs.com. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Pulse Canvas. It's me, Julie, here. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Keep watching. So let's dive into today's video. The Young and the Restless recap for Tuesday, November 25th, reveals that Matt Clark, aka Mitch Bacall, will play a sick Noah Newman game, while Sharon Newman finds that she doesn't trust Detective Burrows. At the Newman Ranch, Adam Newman and Victor Newman will discuss the Matt situation before talk turns to Jill Abbott, who denied funding Abbott Communications when Victor called her. Adam will realize his plan to have Jill pull the funding on the eve of the launch isn't going to work, so he'll guess Victor will have to delay going after Jabot. Victor will insist that he still plans on targeting Jack Abbott, so he'll show no signs of letting this setback deter him. As for the Matt revelation and missing Noah drama, Victor will keep all that a secret from Nikki Newman, Victoria Newman, and the others. Y&R spoilers say Chelsea Lawson will suspect there might be more going on, but Adam will downplay things with her in a private moment. When Claire Newman runs into Kyle Abbott since it's Thanksgiving, Claire will head to the Newman Ranch first and explain that she's going to visit the Abbott house before dinner. That'll give Victor a chance to play up his belief that Kyle genuinely loves Claire. Nikki Newman will also send a pumpkin pie to the Abbotts, so Claire will agree to take it with her. As for Victoria, she'll mention inviting Nate Hastings over for cocktails after his own Thanksgiving dinner with the Winters family. Victor won't be thrilled due to his past issues with Nate, but he'll allow it since Victoria wants Nate there. Although Victoria will insist she's just friends with Nate, Chelsea and Adam will seem skeptical about that. At Society, Billy Abbott will wait for the pumpkin pie Jack ordered. Sally Spectra will have her own award-winning pumpkin pie when she meets with Billy ahead of the Abbott clan's gathering. Despite feeling intimidated and nervous about joining the Abbott festivities, Sally will think her pie is her ace in the hole. Sally will join Billy at the Abbott house soon after, so that'll bring some awkwardness as she tries to chat with Diane Jenkins Abbott and Tracy Abbott. In addition to the pie from Society and Sally's homemade one, Mrs. Martinez will bake some as well. Of course, Claire will also bring the pie from Nikki, so there'll be pumpkin pie overload at the Abbott residence. Harrison will be tickled pink over Claire coming over and will beg her to stick around so he can share his gratitude for her at the table later. In Los Angeles, Nick and Sharon will go on the hunt for Noah. There'll be a flashback of Nick returning to Sharon's hotel room and putting Matt in a chokehold before accepting that they had to play Matt's sick game. That flashback will also reveal that Matt handed over an address where Noah was last seen with Sienna Bacall and a tiny bag of fentanyl that might be needed to trade for info. Nick will fume over Noah possibly being drugged and will remain on edge as he searches the property with Sharon later. There'll be remnants of an apparent drug party and an empty bag that matches the one Matt gave Nick earlier. After Nick summons Detective Burrows and Detective Annie Stewart to the site, the cops will point out there's no firm proof tying Mitch to Noah's crash. Nick will think their history with Matt is proof enough and will vow to tear the place apart, so the detective duo will agree to help. Detective Stewart will plan to search through the abandoned facility with Nick, who'll have Noah's picture in case they need to ask anyone about him. Sharon will stay behind with Burrows as he calls for backup. But Sharon will wonder if he can be trusted and won't be able to shake the feeling that he's hiding something. The Young and the Restless spoilers say Sharon's suspicions could point to more trouble, so stick with us for updates on any alarming news that's still to come. The Young and the Restless long-awaited wedding of Danny and Christine was a beautiful and charming affair. But somehow, it felt like it was missing something. Sure, Nina and Gina both returned to Genoa City for the special day, and it was great to see them again. But two people were missing from the guest list, and they just happened to be the two most iconic characters on Y&R, Victor and Nikki. Victor and Nikki are the biggest super couple on The Young and the Restless, so naturally, no Y&R wedding feels complete without them there. Danny and Christine have been on the show for decades, just as Victor and Nikki have. Even though the two couples may not be the closest of friends, they've known each other for a very long time. Plus, both couples are testimonies to the concept of love conquers all. Danny and Christine married and divorced decades ago, and now they've found each other again and have remarried. Similarly, Victor and Nikki married others throughout the years, but that didn't stop them from finding their way back to each other. Victor shares plenty of scenes with Victoria, but we rarely see him in scenes with his younger daughter, Abby. If Victor and Nikki had attended Danny and Cricket's wedding, then it would have given him and Abby a chance to catch up with each other. The fact that Jack did not attend the wedding would have been a plus if Victor had shown up. The two business rivals would not have been at each other's throats, which could have potentially wrecked the wedding. Even though Nikki may not be close friends with some of the people who attended the wedding, she is good friends with Lauren. Lauren was a huge source of emotional support to Nikki after Jordan got Nikki addicted to alcohol again. Likewise, Nikki was there for Lauren when Lauren was struggling through recent marital difficulties with Michael. Nikki also has a long-time connection to Esther, as both women were close friends to Catherine Chancellor when Esther was her maid and lovingly called her Mrs. C. Catherine was like a mother to Nikki, and the two women shared a special bond, which, of course, is the reason why Nikki now runs Chancellor Industries. So, as lovely as Danny's and Christine's wedding festivities were, it would have added an extra touch of class if the most formidable super couple on Y&R had been added to the guest list. Victor and Nikki always love attending GC gala events, and they would have loved being part of this one. The Young and the Restless spoilers hint that Jack Abbott may save Nikki Newman after Matt Clark targets the Newmans. Will Victor Newman finally drop his feud with Jack following a daring rescue? Jack already saved alcoholic Nikki from the awful road she was headed down, but Victor obviously didn't approve of his methods. To shock Nikki into realizing she needed to make a change, Jack intentionally relapsed on pills and went off the rails in front of her. Although Jack's plan worked and got Nikki into rehab, Victor has been blaming Jack for endangering his wife ever since. It's only adding fuel to the feud that Victor's had with Jack for decades. Now Victor's plotting to use the stolen AI program against Jack and hand over Jabot to Phyllis Summers in the end. Jack is doing his best to prepare for the storm that's coming, but there's only so much he can do. What Jack really needs is a way to change Victor's mind about getting revenge. If Jack can do something to shift Victor's opinion of him, that could ease the tension and pump the brakes on his payback scheme. Y&R might be setting up a heroic rescue. But if Jack saves Nikki from a villain who's about to target the Newman clan. Of course, we're talking about Matt, who's going to make his way to Genoa City once the Los Angeles drama is over. The Young and the Restless spoilers confirm that Matt will go after the whole Newman family once his GC return happens. That includes Nikki, so she's probably going to need a hero sooner or later. Victor might save Nikki himself, but the better story option here would be for Jack to do it instead. There might even be some scenario where Victor and Jack work together on this, but Jack needs to take the lead and save the day. That way, Jack can get a bit of redemption in Victor's eyes. Victor might finally stop complaining about Jack putting Nikki at risk if he's the reason she doesn't perish at Matt's hands. Would you like to see Jack come to Nikki's rescue once Matt comes to Genoa City? Would that be enough to make Victor call off his vengeful plot against Jack? Victor may ultimately make some updates to his plans if Jack comes through with life-saving Nikki news, so stay tuned. The Young and the Restless spoilers for Wednesday, November 26th, reveal that Kane Ashby's generous move will surprise Lily Winters, while Ashley Abbott comes home with a life update. At Crimson Lights, Lily will run into Kane, who'll be wearing an apron and will apparently be pitching in on the restaurant's meals for those in need. Although Kane will want to give back to the community and help rebuild his image, he may not score too many points with Lily just yet. Although Kane's generous move will surprise Lily, it won't be enough to undo all the latest damage. There'll still be some tense moments since Lily recently caught Kane coming out of a suite with Phyllis Summers. Despite Kane's attempt to explain and convince Lily to trust him, she's keeping her guard up when it comes to her ex. However, Lily will enjoy some heartwarming moments with the Winters family later. There'll be some important lessons to learn as Lily reflects on what matters most this time of year. At the Newman Ranch, Nikki Newman will grow increasingly suspicious of Victor Newman and what he's hiding. Victor still hasn't brought Nikki in the loop on Noah Newman's disappearance, or the Matt Clark, aka Mitch Bacall mayhem, so she'll sense that he's keeping secrets to protect her. Nevertheless, Victor will do his best to convince Nikki that there's nothing to worry about as they celebrate Thanksgiving together. Speaking of celebrating Thanksgiving, Ashley's homecoming will thrill everyone at the Abbott estate. That's where Ashley will greet her family members and offer updates on her time away. When Y&R fans last saw Ashley, she was headed back to Paris to work with her therapist after all the Martin Laurent swap madness. Ashley wanted to be proactive and avoid any mental health setbacks, so we can assume her efforts paid off. The Young and the Restless spoilers say Ashley will share some news on her life and spend some time catching up with the people she cares about, so stay tuned. The Young and the Restless spoilers for Tuesday, November 25th, 2025, have Victor enlisting Adam to strike back against Billy, Nick, and Sharon, searching for Noah, and the Abbott serving plenty of drama for Thanksgiving. On Tuesday's show, watch for Victor Newman to enlist his son, Adam, to strike back against Billy Abbott. The Newman men aren't ones to mess with. First, Adam published the hit piece on Kane and Billy. Then, Victor used the AI software against Kane's company. Now, Billy's in their path once again. Billy keeps trying to launch Abbott Communications, a media company that will rival Newman Media. Or at least that's the plan. If Victor and Adam strike effectively, Billy could be nullified as a threat in the media landscape. Nick Newman and his ex-wife Sharon weren't counting on their trip to Los Angeles to see their son, Noah, turn into another adventure. This escape to Hollywood makes their ordeal in Nice, France at Kane's chateau earlier this year look like a walk along the Champs-Élysées. The former husband and wife are on the hunt for Noah and have been ever since he checked himself out of the hospital. They are right to be concerned, as Noah and Sienna have been kidnapped and are being held hostage in a room. Will Nick and Sharon save their son in time for Thanksgiving? On Tuesday's show, watch for Nick and Sharon to continue their search for their son. The Abbott clan isn't always together, but the Thanksgiving holiday may be just the event that brings everyone together. On Tuesday's episode, watch for the Abbotts to start serving up some Thanksgiving drama. We've seen a video spoiler that shows Ashley coming back to Genoa City. No Abbott family event is the same without Ashley's presence. She's driven so many storylines for the Abbott clan over the years, from her many marriages, her battle with breast cancer, and her complicated relationship with her late mother, Dina. Don't miss the Abbotts and their Thanksgiving drama. The Young and the Restless spoilers hint that 3 hot dates may be derailed. These romantic duos may be headed for catastrophe. So let's discuss which potential couples have big trouble brewing. 1. Victoria and Nate's reconnection roadblock. Victor Newman isn't someone who usually forgets a vendetta, so he's still got plenty of issues with Nate Hastings. Those issues are bound to get in the way of Nate and Victoria Newman's path back together. It certainly looks like Victoria and Nate are already starting down a long-awaited reunion road. At some point, Nate and Victoria may find themselves on the same page about stepping out of the friend zone again. That could bring a sizzling date and the opportunity for Victor to derail it. We could easily imagine Victor crashing Nate and Victoria's evening if he spots the date in progress. Of course, that could just be the start of Victor targeting this romance. Victor is more than willing to scheme against relationships when it comes to his family members, so Victoria and Nate may have more disasters ahead of them. 2. Daniel and Tessa's new love story snag. Although Tessa Porter and Daniel Romalotti Jr. have been trying to fight their mutual feelings, they're obviously failing at it. Daniel and Tessa recently made out where Phyllis Summers could see them, so Daniel's mom is sure to get in the way of their blooming love. Sooner or later, Tessa may surrender to this new path with Daniel and go on a proper date with him. Phyllis may get updates on what's happening and plot to derail this very special night. Since Phyllis fears Daniel is going to end up heartbroken, she'll derail any date she can and try to ruin this pairing before they get in too deep. There's also a chance that Mariah Copeland will come home and catch Tessa in a passionate moment with Daniel. So that could be yet another opportunity for a Y&R dating disaster. 3. Phyllis and Kane's game goes wrong. Naturally, Phyllis herself won't be immune to catastrophe. Kane Ashby and Phyllis have been enjoying their time between the sheets, but a real date could be in their future. We could definitely envision that plan going horribly wrong if Lily Winters pops up and makes a mess of things. Then again, Phyllis could be her own worst enemy if Kane scores proof that she stole the AI program and confronts her with it mid-date instead. It could lead to a blow-up and the realization that Phyllis has perhaps fallen harder for Kane than she thought. Regardless, the Young and the Restless spoilers say multiple pairings could have disastrous news in the works, so stay tuned. On the Monday, November 24th episode of The Young and the Restless, Danny and Christine celebrated their union. Tessa convinced Daniel to perform their song, and Phyllis was determined to move on. At Crimson Lights, Kane thanked Phyllis for her entertaining company, and he prepared to leave. She chided him for leaving after she'd rescued him from an uncomfortable conversation with Nina and Amy, and she proposed that they do something to turn the day around. "Challenge accepted," he replied. Danny and Christine's wedding reception was underway at the Genoa City Athletic Club. Danny proclaimed that he was forever grateful to everyone who'd been part of his and Christine's romance. Christine headed back to her hotel suite to change into another gown. Gina asked Danny how it felt to finally be married to the love of his life once again. Danny marveled that it felt like everything was right with the world. Devin asked Danny how it felt to be an old married man again, and Danny couldn't believe it was real. Michael noted that Danny was the rock star of the family, but Danny put his bride on a pedestal. Danny insisted that his wife was the real rock star. Daniel quietly stepped aside, and Tessa approached and asked if he was okay. He admitted he couldn't go through with their song. Lauren and Nina accompanied Christine back to her hotel suite. Lauren expressed relief that there hadn't been a sneeze or welt in sight, and Christine crowed that Phyllis wouldn't ruin her day. Nina revealed that Esther had sent the mums, not knowing Christine was allergic. Christine reflected on being an awkward teenager who'd cut out Danny's photos from teen heartthrob magazines when being with him had only been a fantasy. Lauren asked if Christine was ready for her reception outfit. Danny toasted to his new bride as Christine returned in a sleek satin gown. Gina recalled the couple on their first date at her restaurant, making goo-goo eyes at one another under all the teased hair. Gina regretted that Danny and Christine had missed out on a lot of time because of a certain shrew, but she was happy Christine was her sister-in-law again. Gina was glad she didn't have to worry about her baby brother, because Christine would be there to love him and to take care of him. Nina recalled when Danny and Christine had teamed up to make her a proper lady, having her walk around with a book on her head and teaching her which fork to use. Christine exclaimed that the memory had been part of the happy times she and Danny had talked about during his proposal, and Nina was thrilled that she'd made the cut. Nina said she'd figured out right away that the two were meant to be together, and she loved them both. Michael encouraged everyone to check out Danny's epic 1980s video for Against All Odds, which also featured Lauren. Michael applauded Danny for being the only rock star he'd trust to be a friend to his gorgeous wife, since Danny didn't have eyes for anyone but Christine. Michael credited Lauren and Christine for being the two women who'd saved his life, and he recounted that he'd once donated a kidney of his own to Danny. Michael jokingly cautioned that if anything went south, he'd be back for the kidney. Lauren pointed out that she'd known Danny and Christine when they'd started becoming good friends, and it was the best foundation for a great marriage. Lauren added that she was overjoyed they'd found one another again. Daniel remembered that he'd seen a different side of his father when Danny had invited him to go on tour as his photographer, since he'd witnessed how his dad had navigated fame and dealt with people when the crowds weren't screaming his name. Daniel called Danny an exceptional, kind, generous person, and he was in awe of the kind of father and grandfather Danny was. Phyllis and Kane entered the club as Daniel declared that he only wanted the best for his dad, and Christine was better than the best. Daniel continued that he'd never seen anyone give more joy to Danny. Phyllis chirped that she also wanted to give a toast, and the guests fell silent. Michael and Lauren attempted to intervene, but Phyllis swore she'd moved on and made peace. Christine asserted that nothing Phyllis said could bother her, and she invited Phyllis to go for it, choking back emotion. Phyllis agreed that she'd never seen Danny that happy, even though it killed her to admit it. She mentioned that she'd been talking to someone earlier about how it was healthy to move on from past relationships, but she pointed out that Danny and Christine had never moved on or given up on their love. Phyllis raised a glass to Danny and Christine's long and enduring love. Phyllis toasted to the big, goofy grin Danny had every time he looked at Christine, and to Christine for finally getting her man. Daniel led Phyllis to the foyer as the guests squirmed. Danny apologized. Christine reasoned that it had been a decent gesture, considering it was Phyllis. Amy prompted the group to hit the dance floor. Daniel told Tessa that he couldn't play guitar with his rock star dad watching when he'd only been playing guitar for a couple of months, and he expected to be embarrassed. Tessa insisted that he'd be fantastic because she'd taught him, but Daniel didn't want to let her down. Tessa reminded him that he'd started playing to get out of his head and into his heart to feel grief for the woman he'd loved, but he also needed to feel joy for the dad he loved. She explained that music connected them to their feelings, and she implored him to let it happen. Daniel requested everyone's attention. He announced that he had a gift for his father and Christine, and he wanted to share it with all of them. Daniel began to strum his guitar, and Tessa smiled at him as she started to sing lyrics about love being a fire that grew. Danny and Christine danced. "Some things never burn out," Tessa sang, and she and Daniel gazed at one another as the song ended and high-fived. Danny and Christine raved about the performance. Danny questioned whether Daniel was considering following in his father's footsteps, but Daniel argued that he only played at weddings where his dad was the groom, so it was his farewell tour because the marriage would last forever. Tessa promised to work on changing Daniel's mind. Daniel thanked Tessa for giving a little piece of her heart to Danny and Christine on their big day, and for helping him give a piece of his heart, too. Danny thanked the guests for making it the most special night of his and Christine's lives. He shared that they'd soon be taking off for their honeymoon in Paris after a quick change of clothes. Christine believed many of them knew love wasn't easy, but she declared it was worth every bump in the road if they found the right person and didn't give up. Danny noted that everyone there was like a little fire in his and Christine's hearts, helping them through the darkest moments and lighting a path for them to find one another again. Amy and Tracy fondly remembered singing on stage with Danny. Michael and Lauren filled Nina in about how Chance had always proudly displayed pictures and videos of Dominic. Nina appreciated them sharing their stories, since it helped keep her son's memory alive. Lauren pledged to keep telling Dominic stories about his heroic father. Devin and Abby danced, and he called them an old married couple. She murmured that she still felt like they were on their honeymoon, and they kissed. Tessa swore that she wouldn't let it be Daniel's last gig. He conceded that if anyone could get him to do something he didn't want to do, it was her. He thanked her for getting him out of his head, and she countered that he'd done the same thing for her. Daniel thought that meant they were good for one another. Phyllis and Kane retreated to her hotel suite, and she expressed relief to be away from the losers. Kane asked if she was joking, and she claimed that she'd been joking the whole time because speeches shouldn't be sweet and saccharine. He wondered if she'd been joking when she'd talked about letting go and moving on, and he urged her to do something to prove she was doing so. "Is this proof enough?" she asked, pulling him into a passionate kiss. Phyllis suggested that she and Kane play a game by taking off their clothing to symbolize the baggage they'd been carrying around. She removed her top and referred to it as the grief she'd been carrying around over Danny and Christine's union. Phyllis helped Kane take off his shirt and stated that it represented Lily. She unbuckled his belt and ordered him to get rid of the constant disapproval from his kids. Kane dropped his pants, and Phyllis stripped off her skirt, calling it her constant need and desire to be relevant to the losers. He guessed they were out of baggage to shed. She purred that they were free to do whatever the hell they wanted, and they resumed kissing. In another hotel suite, Danny and Christine cheered that they'd done it. They kissed, and she asked how long they had because she didn't want to keep their guests waiting. Danny preferred a moment alone with his wife, and they collapsed onto the bed in a kiss. Later, Danny and Christine exited their hotel room and braced themselves for a confrontation when they ran into Phyllis and Kane in the corridor. Phyllis sincerely wished them bon voyage, and the married couple headed off. Kane questioned whether Phyllis's gesture had been for Danny and Christine's benefit or his own. Phyllis firmly stated that she'd meant it. Danny and Christine descended the stairs to the foyer, and their loved ones showered them in flower petals on their way to the exit. Michael and Lauren complimented Daniel and Tessa's beautiful song, and they headed out. Tessa remarked that it had been a romantic day, and she couldn't think of anything that would have made it more perfect. "I can," Daniel replied, and he pulled her into a tender kiss. Phyllis and Kane spotted them from the foyer. The Young and the Restless, update for Tuesday, November 25th, reveals that Sharon Newman will pray for a miracle while Abbott family problems play out. Adam Newman will also have to follow orders, so here's what Y&R fans can expect. Since Noah Newman is still missing in Los Angeles, it'll be up to Sharon and Nick Newman to find him. Things could be tricky thanks to Matt Clark, aka Mitch Bacall, and whatever demands he makes. But Nick and Sharon will do their part to make sure Noah gets out of this alive. While Noah and Sienna Bacall remain stuck in captivity together, Sharon and Nick's hunt will apparently lead them to the right storage unit facility. As Sharon hopes for a miraculous outcome and prays Noah will be found, Nick will spot a hint that sends them in the right direction. It hopefully won't be long until Nick and Sharon are prying open the door that Noah and Sienna are currently stuck behind. While Sharon and Nick hope for a Thanksgiving family reunion, the Abbotts will have some issues as they prepare for their Turkey Day gathering. There could be some bickering about how to handle Victor Newman and the AI threat he brings to the table. As for Claire Newman, she may face some uncomfortable moments if Harrison Abbott begs her to join Thanksgiving dinner. Kyle Abbott may think that's a great idea and pressure Claire to say yes for Harrison's sake. Regardless, Claire will indeed join the Abbott family festivities, which will also be attended by Ashley Abbott once she comes home during the week of November 24th to 28th. In the meantime, Adam will meet with Victor to discuss their plot against Billy Abbott, which still involves getting Jill Abbott to back out of her Abbott Communications investment and then blowing up the news at the launch bash. Even if Victor and Adam discuss some other options in case that plan doesn't work out, they'll be in agreement about making Billy miserable. Adam will be given more orders as Victor continues on his vengeful path. Naturally, Victor's real goal will be to create the ultimate diversion. This is about unleashing a nightmare for Billy so that Jack Abbott doesn't see his own Jebboat nightmare coming until it's too late. The Young and the Restless spoilers say there's much more Abbott chaos to come, so stick with us for updates on all the twists and turns. Phyllis can't resist making a scene. Michelle Stafford's character Phyllis is always causing a stir on The Young and the Restless. While many Genoa City residents are annoyed by her antics, the actress and her co-stars love Phyllis' scenes. It doesn't take much to set Phyllis off. The latest thing to rile up the redhead is Danny and Christine's wedding. As fans know, Phyllis has been a thorn in the couple's sides from the moment she arrived in Genoa City. Phyllis was the reason Danny and Christine's first marriage ended. Her manipulation set up a 3-decade feud with Christine, which recently reignited thanks to Cricket's engagement to Danny. When it came time for Danny and Christine's big day, everyone worried Phyllis would cause a ruckus. As expected, Miss Summers made an appearance at the ceremony. While the guests were filled with dread, it was fun and games for Stafford and the rest of the cast. On Instagram, Stafford posted a video making fun of Phyllis's wedding crashing. Stafford makes her grand entrance in the GCAC as Britney Spears' Gimme More plays. Stafford's co-stars then express their annoyance as Phyllis crashes the ceremony. Susan Walters, who plays Phyllis's other rival Diane, rolls her eyes. Brighton James makes a disgusted face, while Stafford's on-screen son, Michael Gradude, downs a glass of champagne. Danny and Christine's wedding went off without a hitch, but the reception was a different story. As the couple and their friends celebrated, Phyllis arrived with Kane. Grabbing a champagne glass, Phyllis declared she wanted to propose a toast. Despite Michael's efforts to stop her, Phyllis made a grand speech that surprised everyone. Phyllis talked about moving on and wanting Danny to be happy. After seeing how happy he is with Christine, she gave the happy couple her blessing. While wedding crashing is a classic Phyllis move, her toast was a turning point for the character. It seems Phyllis is truly over Danny and is ready to move on with her life, and her new journey has landed her in the arms of Kane. Kane, too, is moving on from his ex-wife Lily and is ready for a fresh start. With Phyllis and Kane putting the past behind them, the future is looking bright for Fane's relationship. Genoa City turned out for Danny and Christine's wedding. Danny and Christine's wedding was a huge affair on The Young and the Restless. Many special Genoa City guests arrived at the ceremony dressed to the nines. Here's a look at some of the best outfits. The best-dressed list kicks off with the bride herself. For Christine, fans helped choose her wedding dress, and they didn't disappoint with their pick. Christine looked beautiful in a white strapless gown with a sweetheart neckline and rhinestone belt. All eyes were on Christine as she walked down the aisle to become Mrs. Romalotti again. For her wedding, Christine chose Lauren as her bridesmaid. Not only did Lauren help Christine glam up for the big day, but she looked fabulous herself. Lauren wore a one-shoulder, pale lavender dress with a floral pattern. As a fashionista, Lauren made sure to look great without taking the focus off her friend. Diane was solo at the wedding since Jack was dealing with business, but Jack may regret his decision after seeing his wife's dazzling ensemble. Mrs. Abbott opted for a sparkly, short-sleeved blue dress for the big ceremony. While Diane had a marvelous time, like Christine, she was annoyed by Phyllis's party crashing. Esther took a break from her barista duties at Crimson Lights to attend the wedding. For the ceremony, Esther got all glammed up in a long-sleeved, sparkly black mini dress. Esther looked marvelous as she watched Catherine's stepson marry his longtime love. However, Esther almost messed up everything by sending Christine flowers that she was allergic to. Tessa was a guest of Daniel's, and also the entertainment for the big day. The singer opted for a simple, yet cute number of a blue floral dress. To complete her look, Tessa wore her newly blonde hair in loose waves. With Tessa being in a gloomy mood in recent months, getting dolled up was a nice treat for the songbird. Danny certainly looked dapper in a black tuxedo as he said, "I do" again. His son Daniel gave the rock star a run for his money in the fashion department. Daniel also opted for a tux with black pants and a gray jacket. The father and son were undoubtedly the best-dressed men at the wedding. But did we expect anything less from the Romalotti men? Ashley comes home for the holidays. The Young and the Restless spoilers for Wednesday, November 26th, find Victor in classic Victor mode, deciding that Nikki doesn't need to know about the danger Nicholas is in on the West Coast. It would only concern her pretty little head and give her frown lines. That simply won't do for the woman he so patronizingly calls my baby. Everything Victor does, he does for the benefit of his family, whether they asked for it or not, whether they want it or not, whether they know about it or not. His job is to protect his wife from having any thoughts in her head that Victor didn't put there. This is why Victor decides not to tell Nikki that Nick's life may be in danger in Los Angeles. Also, Sharon's. But he knows that won't upset Nikki nearly as much. Nikki has Thanksgiving coming up, and she needs to be the perfect Newman hostess. Victor can't have her distracted. It's for her own good. Ashley is all better now, we guess. Did we ever find out what caused her to develop multiple personalities earlier this year? Well, yeah, it was Martin. The evil one. But what was it that Martin was able to exploit in order to trigger Ashley's breakdown? We don't know. Do we still care? Doesn't look like it. Ashley is back. Yay! Happy Thanksgiving, everybody! Lily doesn't feel like she has a lot to celebrate this holiday season. Her kids aren't coming home, thanks to Kane, so she tries to hold on to the family she still has. Devin, Nate, and Amy. They're going to stick together, no matter what. Did Phyllis finally win everyone over with her speech? On The Young and the Restless, November 24th, Phyllis crashed Christine and Danny's wedding, but it wasn't what they anticipated. Instead of roasting them, she actually toasted them. She might have also redeemed herself in more ways than one. After marrying Danny, Christine returned to her hotel room on Monday's episode. Nina and Lauren accompanied her. Nina informed them that it wasn't Phyllis who sent the flowers that Cricket was allergic to. She overheard Esther saying during the ceremony that she sent the flowers. The reason why Esther chose those flowers is that she loved the colors. She wasn't aware of Cricket's allergies. Cricket got a good laugh, which is what she needed after all those nerves. Well, what do you know? Phyllis didn't send the flowers after all. She was telling the truth. This is not the only time she redeemed herself. Phyllis and Kane returned to the Genoa City Athletic Club. Phyllis grabbed a glass of champagne and held it up in the air. She told the guests that she also wanted to propose a toast. Understandably, Christine and Danny looked nervous. However, Christine allowed Phyllis to speak her mind, as she would be thoroughly entertained. Phyllis admitted that she's never seen Danny smile this much. She became emotional as she shared that she had spoken to someone who said it was healthy to move on from old relationships. Then, she shared that the people who never moved on were Cricket and Danny. But she could see they were meant to be. And Christine finally got her man. She held up her glass as she said, "Cheers, everyone!" Danny apologized, but Christine was pleasantly surprised by Phyllis's speech. First, she didn't do anything that would ruin Danny and Christine's big day. She didn't cause any drama, nor did she start an uproar during the reception. She simply wanted to give them a kind gesture. Finally, she was able to move on and give the couple her blessing. It was then discovered that she wasn't the one who sent the flowers. Maybe Phyllis has finally turned a new leaf. Of course, she hasn't been redeemed just yet. She's making questionable moves when it comes to Cain. Who knows what her plans are for working with him? Thanksgiving brings reunions, reflection, and a few awkward encounters as Genoa City's families gather to celebrate and reconnect. The Wednesday, November 26th, spoiler photos for the young and the restless focus on the various Thanksgiving celebrations. Cain, Lily, and Phyllis have another run-in. Amy recently got the chance to confront Cain over the death of Damien. That was at Danny's and Christine's wedding. This Thanksgiving, she will spend it with the Winters family, but she'll also help Esther do some good at Crimson Lights, where they give back by preparing meals for those in need. Cain's apparently volunteering at Crimson Lights. That's where he runs into Lily, and the exes get another chance to get their relationship back on track. However, Lily knows that Cain has taken steps towards a fresh start with Phyllis, and this has happened just when she was finally starting to soften her stance towards her ex-husband. Speaking of Phyllis, she is also there at Crimson Lights. That means there's a good chance this will turn out to be an extremely awkward Thanksgiving conversation. Maybe they will all remember that this is a holiday for giving thanks. They can be civil, right? Perhaps they'll scale back on any bitterness or sarcasm and retreat to their various corners. Things are bustling over at the Abbott mansion. Claire doesn't avoid Kyle this holiday. Whatever is going on between Claire and Kyle, she wants to make sure that she doesn't hurt Harrison. She missed their Halloween, but she wasn't about to miss Thanksgiving too. The big Abbott family return is Ashley. Tracy was already in Genoa City to attend Danny and Christine's nuptials. Now that Ashley's back, the family can truly celebrate. The pies are made, and the Abbotts are seated at the table. Jack, Ashley, Claire, Harrison, Kyle, Billy, Sally, Diane, and Tracy are ready to break bread and give thanks. They will undoubtedly be grateful for their health, happiness, and this opportunity to be together. But in the back of their minds, some of them may have feelings of dread. Dread over the fact that Victor is out to destroy their company. And at any moment, he will try. Nate and Victoria toast each other at the Newman Ranch. These two have been growing closer ever since they both experienced a huge loss, Damien and Cole, respectively. Will they take another step towards a reunion this Thanksgiving? Or will things remain at this slow-burning, almost glacial pace? The Newmans and the Winters celebrate together as Devin, Abby, and Nate join Victoria, Chelsea, and Adam at the ranch. In the second image, Devin and Abby appear to be having a serious conversation. Their discussion may focus on Lily and Cain, or perhaps we'll actually learn what's going on with the married couple. The Winters celebrate Thanksgiving at Society. Nate, Devin, Lily, Abby, and Amy make a toast. According to the Daily Spoilers, Lily reminds the Winters of the importance of family. They lost one of their own earlier this year, Damien, so Amy, Nate, and the group may take a moment to remember him